Hi guys, in this video I'll be showing you an instructive tool you can use either in your end game or towards the end of the game. Well, it is not really a strange idea to note that whenever your minor pieces or a minor piece is advanced, for example you are playing white and your minor piece advances to the 6th rank or 7th rank, it becomes extremely powerful. It is worth more than two inactive strong pieces or major pieces. What I'm trying to say is that in this game played in the year 1914 between Emmanuel Lascar and Jose Raul Capablanca, Emmanuel Lascar demonstrated the strength of pieces when they are on the 6th rank and 7th rank. He showed how to utilize a knight on the 6th rank and how to utilize a rook on the 7th rank. Let's watch this video and enjoy the beauty this video has to offer. The game starts with pawn to e4, by Emmanuel Lascar, pawn to e5 by Capablanca, knight to f3, knight to c6, defending this pawn, bishop to b5. We can see the Rue Lopez opening on the board. We can also call it the Spanish game. In this position, for the Rue Lopez, it has many theory and it's very complex. So if you are ready to study the Rue Lopez, you are prepared to go in for many understanding. However, I'm going to chip in some ideas here. Black has played a lot of defenses, including knight to f6, bishop to c5, even pawn to a6, just to mention few of them. In this game, Capablanca chose to employ pawn to a6, which gives us the Murphy's defense. The Murphy's defense is named after Paul Murphy, who played this particular line very well and made it popular. In this position, this pawn is asking questions to white. Do you want to leave your bishop there? Or do you want to play bishop to a4? Or do you want to capture the knight? Of course, with bishop to a4, black is prepared to try and play the famous trap we know, known as the Noah's Ark trap, by pushing pawn to b5 later and trying to trap the bishop with the move pawn to c5 and pawn to c4. Those ideas can be averted by simply taking the knight, which will lead us to the exchange variation. And that is exactly what's happened in this game. Emmanuel Lascar chose to play the exchange variation, which continued after pawn takes the bishop. In this position, the pawn on e5 is now a target. Don't be quick to capture the pawn because the pawn is not a free pawn anyways. The pawn can be taken back, or black has a counterplay. After knight takes the pawn, queen to d4. This gives back the pawn after queen takes the pawn. Aside from knight takes pawn right away, there are other responses and continuation by white, which can be knight to c3, castling, keeping the king away from the center, and also an aggressive d4. An aggressive d4 like this. Well, d4 was played. Pawn takes. In this case, knight can take, but queen takes in the game. Queen took, knight took the queen. Here we are. The kings are still in the center. We might still say we are still in the opening stage. However, after bishop to d6, knight to c3, knight to e7, white castles, black castles. From here, I could simply say we have moved from the opening game to the middle game. f4 followed by Emmanuel Lascar, going to harass this bishop. Before harassing this bishop, you must be careful because there is a pin on this particular diagonal. So, rook to e8 comes up, knight to b3, f6 followed, stopping white from advancing this pawn and harassing the bishop. f5. What is the purpose of f5? f5 is simple. It's just for you to understand what f5 is doing. f5 is preventing this bishop from being active and trying to cause weaknesses in the king side. In case of this pawn push, pawn takes, maybe knight takes or pawn takes, this pawn will fall. This bishop is not having many squares to go to. This bishop coming down to this square is still the same thing as staying at the original position. Then the pawn takes away e6 from the bishop to use in the future. So What did Capablanca do? Instead, he played b6 with the idea to bring the bishop over to b7 and open road for the bishop. Well, Emmanuel Lascar went on with bishop to f4. This is a middle game idea. You should try and discover your opponent's most active piece in a position, then try to remove it. Capablanca's most active piece at the moment, covering squares, seem very active, is this dark squared bishop compared to other pieces in his camp. So, this bishop for Emmanuel Lascar was inactive. If you take it back, see, the bishop was doing nothing. So, Emmanuel Lascar decided to play the bishop so as to trade out this active bishop for black, creating room for his own rook to come into the game or join the attack soon. Bishop to b7, bishop takes the bishop on d6, pawn takes on d6. White has more active position with a lot of space covered towards the king side, towards the queen side, and even in the center. Knight to d4, rook on a to d8. Knight to e6. Here we have a knight on e6, the knight on the 6th rank. This knight becomes a monster knight. It's in the center and very advanced towards the black's camp. At the moment, the knight is attacking this rook. What to do? Capablanca saved the rook first, moving it to d7. The knight covers many squares, such as the square d8, f8, mounting pressure on the pawn g7, with simple maneuver of rook to f3, rook again to g3, strategically can put pressure on this pawn. The knight covers c7, the knight covers c5, the knight covers d4, the knight covers f4. What a strong knight. Throughout the game from this position, observe what the knight did. It deprived the two rooks and also the king from activity. It is very strong such that it did not allow black pieces to cross the 5th rank. Just observe this. Rook on A moved to d1, bringing attacking forces into the game. Knight to c8. Rook to f2 comes up, b5. Rook on f to d2, doubling forces against this pawn. Rook on d to d7. b4 comes up. King to f7, a3. Bishop to a8. Now we have king to f2. Rook on a to e7, g4. h6. Rook to d3. The knight is pinned, guarding this pawn. Black has many inactive pieces. a5 followed. h4. Pawn takes on b4. Pawn takes on b4. Rook on a to e7. King to f3. Rook to g8. King to f4. After g6, the idea is if pawn takes with check, king takes that knight. That is the systematic way Capablanca wants to use to remove that monster knight. Well, Emmanuel Lascar did not choose that option. Instead, he went for rook to g3. Pawn came down to g5, checks the king. It is important to notice this variation. If pawn takes and pawn takes here, check to the king comes back, black will take control of this open file. So, this move, king down right away, could not give room for this rook to be active through the h file. So in this position, knight to b6 comes up. Here, pawn takes on g5, pawn takes on g5, rook to h3. You see the idea? Emmanuel Lascar now took over the h file, activating the rook, having access to 7th rank and 6th rank. Also, he can double his rooks here, making it very strong and very active, then depriving any of the black pieces to have access to that H file. Total control and domination. Rook to d7. In this position, king to g3, king to e8. Notice how the king cannot come to this square because of the knight covers and knight covers. Here, rook on d to h1, bishop to b7, e5. This is a temporary pawn sacrifice, but why? The intention is to bring this knight over to e4, spotting this particular pattern where the rook and the king can easily be attacked by a knight taking this pawn or hopping on that square f6. Pawn takes on e5, knight to e4. Emanuel Lascar goes for his idea, trying to bring the knight to take, which will fork the king, the rook, and the rook. At least one major piece will be captured. Knight to d4, defending that square, defending the pawn. Knight on 6 to c5. This is the only time after that move that Emanuel Lascar moved this knight, with the intention to attack and capture one of these spaces. Take for example, if black saves the rook, the bishop is gone. Another concept is, if the rook is saved, keeping it on that 7th rank, still defending this particular bishop. The idea behind this would be knight takes, rook takes, knight to d6, check the king and attack the rook. So king moves, perhaps, then we have knight takes the rook. White is winning. That is why in this position, Capablanca played bishop back to c8, allowing Emanuel Lascar to capture the rook. Bishop captures the knight, rook to h7. Another concept, mobilizing a major piece, putting it on the 7th rank, making it extremely strong. See what terror this rook supports in achieving. Rook to f8, rook to a1, preparing to throw the rook to the back rank. King to d8, rook went on to go to a8, check. Bishop blocked. Now we have knight to c5. In this position, Capablanca resigned. Emanuel Lascar won this game. Thank you for watching this video.